Thousand Mowbray, Leicester, Nuneaton, Curzon Parkway, and is expected to arrive at Birmingham New Street at 9:38.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, especially at this time of the day, which is a bit early for me. So, first thing I'd like to say is don't worry about having to take notes. A, the slideshow is going to be available at the end of the presentation, and B, there's actually going to be some memorable aspects to it, so that you might not even have to go that far. So here we have a portentous title, LinkedIn, a tool for finding high-level business contacts, which is obviously why we have such a high-profile audience here at the moment. But social media is something that is prevalent within all our businesses. Who at the moment feels that they're perhaps confused by the high level of social media that's going on? Yeah, a fair show of hands. And in fact, if you look at an analysis of all the social media that are available through the conversation prism, it looks like a very daunting perspective. However, from a business point of view, don't panic. One of the best business networks is still LinkedIn. It's changed dramatically over the years. Initially, it was primarily a sort of CV holding social network, which was used to hunt for high-profile contacts or to snatch them from one company to another. But it's now expanded very much into the social media scene, and it does a lot more. And at 225 million members worldwide, it's a network where you can find a useful contact anywhere in the world that you need to do so. But with any social network that you go through, I would like you to think MICE. Now, MICE is going to be my acronym for the 4 key points in dealing with any social media. And the first one to realize is that what you're looking at is meeting places. Social media are meeting places. And in meeting places, you go there because you want to just get to know other businesses, you want to exchange information. One of the last things you want is actually someone coming along to you, grabbing you by the lapel and saying, buy my product, or listen to me. It's all about being interesting, being relevant, and connecting with people. And just as you're meeting here, just imagine that LinkedIn is the same thing, except you can do it with a cup of coffee in your hand at your laptop. One of the key elements, though, is that you have an ability to introduce yourself to an audience well in advance, or people can even come along and check you out. So any of you might see my name, hear my name, and go back and look on LinkedIn and search for my profile, and you can find out quite a lot about what I do and the sort of person that I am. And that really is one of the key elements for your profile, is that what you do want to do is not just give a CV timeline of all the things that you've done, but also talk about the things that interest you, the projects that you might be working on, or your future aspirations. And the one area where you can do that within your own profile, when you set it up within LinkedIn, is under the summary. And there, I provide a resume of the sorts of things that I am particularly interested in, which are currently, due to my links to a German architecture group, is clean tech and green construction. Another vital element of any social network is that you take part, that you contribute in some form. This can be a simple thing, just letting people know what projects you might be working on or items of interest that you have to share. But it's also getting involved in discussions with others and exchanging views. Because it's through that interaction that people get to know you want to connect with you and actually perhaps want to share business with you in the longer run. Now, what we're going to do today, the key element, is to assume that most of you have either heard of LinkedIn or have got some familiarity with the principle. And it's going one step further. It's saying, well, you remember now, you have your profile, but how can you actually use that profile to expand your network and to find perhaps those vital or important contacts that can help you further a particular project where you can find a collaboration partner perhaps who can assist you in terms of taking your projects forward. And it all comes down to the importance of your contacts. A good example will be, I'm standing here on my own. Okay, so there's a limit to what I can potentially do. But if I was interested, for example, in wind energy, I might go to Gareth. I say, Gareth, do you have any contacts that might be involved in the wind energy area? How many do you think you might know that might be relevant for me to talk to?
Well,
Good three?
Yeah.
Good three, 3 or 4. And so that's already troubled my level of contacts that I may be able to reach. And also, those contacts in themselves, even if they're not directly relevant to what you're interested in, they may be able to pass you on. And you get this multiplication of effects. So even if you're starting with a few contacts initially, what it does allow you is to reach a wider audience. And then by inviting others to connect to you and to become prime contacts, you can expand your network. But it is vital for your LinkedIn searches because the LinkedIn searches search and give results based primarily on the contacts and the connections to the contacts and the connections to those contacts that you can find. Now, the search function in LinkedIn is one of the first things that will pop up just right at the top of the page, above your profile, above any of the other information that is going on there. And it just looks such an innocuous little box. But it is, and it has become, extremely powerful with its advanced features. Oops. The search function is keyword based. And you can either enter a single keyword or you can enter multiple keywords to try and narrow down your search. As soon as you've typed in, and I've put in wind energy in this particular field here, it comes up with a whole range of options or answers, as any search engine would do. But here, on the side, it gives you the capability of homing in onto a particular sector, a particular group, or a particular area. So you have a variety of categories where you could be searching all, and that's what we have at the moment. But you could specifically be looking for people, or companies, or jobs. A lot of people actually do that to try and find jobs that are in the appropriate sector for them. And groups, which is something I will come on to later. You will see in terms of the number of connections that I've got, it's very difficult to see here, but we have something like prime connections that I would have to wind energy in LinkedIn. I have about 5 or 6. But second connections, so for example, through someone that Gareth may know, I can extend my range up to 52 already. This is, of course, throughout the whole of the world, but I can limit this either to specific companies or to my location and actually go down to, for example, the United Kingdom. I searched for wind energy, but any of you who do searches on a regular basis, remember that if you have 2 words in a search, normally the search will always go for the first word and the second word, irrespective of whether they're related or not. And a way that you can narrow this down is to have a phrase where you bracket the term wind energy, for example, with quotation marks. And that will mean that you will only find things that are relevant directly to wind energy. You'll also notice that I've added another term here, Peterborough. So that's even more specific than the UK. And that has already brought down the number of connections that I might know in this region that could help me with wind energy down to 3. And in fact, they're listed here. What I've done, I've deliberately blurred any of the personal contacts that there are. It's not to hide anything from you. It's because LinkedIn is a social network and the connections are people who've linked to you. It's a personal connection that is set up. So I'm not trying to hide anything. I just want to make sure that I'm not causing offence to those people who might not wish to be identified on a broader panel. As I mentioned before, one of the ways that you can interact is by putting up information about what you're doing. But another way to reach individuals is to look for groups that are relevant to your particular sector. And you can search for groups using, again, the keywords tool and just selecting down for groups. And you will come up, irrespective of the keywords that you put in, you will be surprised at the number of groups that may be available within your particular area of interest. So I've searched for wind power as opposed to wind energy, and I've come up with 4 or 5 here. There were actually 220 search results, but for an arbitrary reason, I've just picked up the very first one. Now, most groups require you to become a member to contribute. Why should you do that? The reason is that you can, once you are a member, you can initiate a discussion, you can ask questions, and you can engage with people who are not necessarily in your direct sphere of influence, the contacts that you already have. So it widens your scope. It also gives you an opportunity to say, well, in a particular debate or a discussion, here is some interesting information that I have to give forward, and others will respond and discuss that with you, and your profile will be raised quite dramatically as well. But how do you decide whether a group is something that is relevant to you? And particularly as we are interested in looking at high-level contacts within any particular search or business. And on the far right-hand side, you can see, check out insightful statistics for this particular group. Now, there are 4 options available. I've put them all on one particular screen, but they demonstrate the amount of information you can find out about a group even before you join. You can see whether it is something that is relevant to you and you are likely to find appropriate contacts. So we have something like 12,974 members, of which, again, unfortunately on this screen you can't see it, but you actually have a high-level proportion of executives in this group, and then it goes down to director managers, and then it comes to simple entrants. So the distribution of this group, if you're interested in wind power, is actually one that is quite highly represented at a senior level within the business. So it is somewhere that is worth going for. I think it's, again, looking just at the number of professionals that you have, and also the locations you can get. You can also get an idea of the type of activity and how the group has grown. And over at the far side, it tells you how many discussions perhaps are going on, and also the sort of responses that you have. So you can go through and you can find a group that suits your subject and where it looks, where there is a suitable level of involvement that may assist you in finding appropriate contacts within the group. The one feature that sometimes is frustrating is that you may do a search and you will find there are very few initial prime contacts, first level, like Gareth that you have, very few second level contacts, but you might have contacts third level down the line. And with those, LinkedIn naturally limits the amount of information that you can actually see, so that people are not abusing the system. The idea is that you're introduced to people that you know, or through people that you know. And the option you either have is being introduced through one of your contacts. You can ask to be introduced through LinkedIn to another individual. But there is one way around that, and is that a number of individuals not only have their LinkedIn profile for within LinkedIn, they also have a public profile within LinkedIn. And you can set that yourself. If you go back to your profiles within LinkedIn, look and make your public profile available. Because this then increases your accessibility through other search engines, such as Google. And it is quite possible to search Google using this particular phrase. You have site:/linkedin.com. You're specifying, I would like you just to search the LinkedIn site, and then introduce the particular terms that you wish to search for. And this will bring up a range of names, of which some of them you will have seen in your LinkedIn search, but some of them you may have not. There may be additional contacts that you could find. And what's more, of the contacts that might be at the third level where you can't receive sufficient information, you only get the first name and the initial of the surname, you might actually be able to get the full name of that individual, which would allow you again to find a route to approach that person to improve your contact level. So I'd like to round up this conversation and just remind you to think twice, regard LinkedIn as a social meeting place, but with a business purpose, where the key aspect is that you are introducing yourself to others, but in an interesting way. You are also contributing, so you're seen as someone who is knowledgeable and active and effective within your field. And you're using it to continually expand and explore the other contacts that you might have. So think mice to ensure that you have a successful profile and presence on LinkedIn. I can now take 3 questions from the floor. Who has the first question, please?
What's to stop if you sign up having your inbox flooded with buy me, sell me, whatever? Because that's the experience a lot of people have had, I know.
One of the things when you sign up and you set your profile within any social media is you can set what level of notifications you wish to have via your email. The usual aspect is that people contact you within LinkedIn, but you also have the ability for those notifications to be sent to your email box. And I would limit that so that you don't have that feeling of being swamped. The other thing that you can do, I think you could unfriend, quite frankly, people who spam you. I would be very selective in terms of the individuals that you're dealing with or that you're communicating with. And that's one of the routes that you can narrow down the number of problems that you have. Especially because this aspect of where you have first contacts, easy to communicate with. Second contacts is somebody that Gareth might know. I can try and connect to directly. They can still refuse me. But third contacts, I can only do it through introduction. So, be selective. Don't just try to get the maximum number of contacts. Actually try to make sure that your contacts are relevant and high profile for you. So.
Just going to comment on that. I think LinkedIn operates 3 strikes and you're out.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you receive inappropriate introductions and you can say ignore this,
Yes.
and there's 3 different levels which you can just say ignore.
Yeah.
If somebody receives ignore and this is spam 3 times, then they get removed
Yeah.
from the site.
Yeah. I moderate a group. I moderate the Anglo-German Business Network, and I'm quite harsh when I go through, because the idea is that on groups you can post discussions, you can post promotions, you can post jobs, and people will put their promotions and their jobs right in the top discussions if they can. But by keeping on top of that as the group manager, I direct them in the right direction. And I'm also selective, again, in terms of which individuals that I will allow to join a group. You have to have a sufficient profile to look as if you're actually interested in presenting yourself on a business perspective in a relevant area. If you just come with the one-liners, there are those which is invite, want to connect to you, and there is nothing about them. Why would you connect? If you can't make the effort to tell me more about yourself, why should I connect with you? Take a third question. Sorry, the gentleman behind you, if that's right.
Just a quick one on endorsements. You can endorse people.
Yes.
And I find that people will endorse me and that they don't even, well, they know me.
Yes.
They don't know that I can do that. And they're just obviously trying to do it so that you endorse them back.
Yes.
Do people really take any notice of these endorsements?
The feature that's... Sorry, what was your name?
Guy Childers.
The feature that Guy is talking about is that when you go into your profile now in LinkedIn, the very first thing that will pop up is that these and these people have endorsed you for particular skills or characteristics. A lot of people do this generally, and as you mentioned, a lot of people do it just because they're trying to get contacts. But they do have an effect. If you look at your profile and you scroll down to the bottom, what you will have is you will have the keywords for which people have endorsed you. And it's very insightful to actually have a look at that and see what people are saying within their own profile and what people have actually endorsed them for. And I think it is effective as long as you make sure that you have a critical eye when you're looking at it. It's interesting because the other ability you have is to give recommendations where somebody writes a full paragraph recommendation for you. And that's how it used to be done in the past. But endorsements is a very quick way for people to click and say, right, that person's good on wind power, that one's good on communicating on solar power, etc. It will balance and it gives you an idea on that front. So. Any last questions?
It was just on that kind of same subject with the endorsements. I think the trouble with LinkedIn is that you don't choose how to endorse somebody. It comes up with a suggestion.
Yes.
Can you endorse this person for sales and marketing or for digital brand or whatever? And I think it's there. I think people just click it because it's there. It's not a proactive thing. It's here, and it's almost like ignore it. It's almost like you're ignoring them, if you like. It's almost like a personal sign. Have you tried the other thing I was going to ask was on the introduction? Have you used that feature to where you ask people to introduce you to other people? And have you had any thoughts on that at all?
Again, I think it depends on the individual. I'm selective, so if I get someone to ask me to introduce them to someone else, I will check out. If I don't know them immediately and need reminding, I will check out their profile, and then I will pass on that recommendation. And it's up to the other individuals to take it on. I think with any social media, at the current environment that we're in, you have to be savvy to a certain degree. When you go into Tesco's and you see all the adverts for the sweets, for the chocolates, for the cakes, and for the high-level products, which are blasting you in the face, you naturally screen that out. And although it will affect you to some degree, you will tend to go for the things that you wish to have. And it's the same with some of these features. Yes, some people will initially be click happy with the endorsements, but if you are careful in terms of the way that you apply them, you will find that it's the key contacts that you have that will then return the favour and endorse you for a key skill that you do actually have, not just one that has been picked up on a keyword basis. So. Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope that was useful. And if you have any further questions, do feel free to ask them afterwards when we're networking with the tea and coffee. And it's back to Ina. Thank you. Thank you.